So, Gina, what do you get when you actually have a podcast that the host can't even get a word in edgewise over the guest?
Well, that's a funny question. I don't know. What do you get?
I don't really know either, but we're getting ready to find out on this one.
Uh-oh. Well, hold on tight. It's the Riveted with Chris and Gina. This is a really big day. I'm super charged up about today.
I've been trying to decide how to prepare for this conversation, and I just don't think there's any way I can.
There's no way. I mean, I've tried to take notes. I've got a notebook full of notes to talk about today.
You do not either?
I do.
Well, you might as well rip that page out of the book because there's no way of knowing where this conversation is going to go.
Oh, that's the fun part about it.
It is.
Yes.
We have got somebody with us today, listener, that is a man of many words, and you got, when he talks, you listen. He's like E.F. Hutton, isn't that who that is?
E.F. Hutton.
Something like.
And he's going to put a smile on your face no matter what.
Oh, he absolutely is. And the first time we met him, the first time we got to hang out, it was like, this guy is somebody special. Everybody knows him. He's world famous. He used to be the Region 3 president of the International Club of several years ago. He's hosted huge rallies. He's a amazing Airstreamer, one of a kind man.
And he's going to stimulate all of you today with his conversation.
Stimulate?
Right? Stimulate. Did you like that word? Stimulate.
Oh, boy. So
I got to throw it in there sometime.
Without further ado, listeners, we have got the one, the only Mr. John Leake on the podcast. Welcome to the Riveted, John.
Well, thank you, Chris and Gina. I guess I'm happy to be here. I appreciate all the accolades. I'm not so sure I'm supposed to get all that stuff, but I really do.
You're well deserving.
Oh, for sure. And he said, did he say, I think I'm happy to be here? Is that
that's what he said. He hadn't decided yet. Maybe he'll let us know after the fact here.
I could be a little happier, but I'm just getting started on the happy part because I've had a little shop. And,
you already got you a drink poured today?
Yeah, I've had a couple
of
beers. I was trying to behave myself a little bit.
Yeah.
So I go in and get my real tonic, my worm cutter out. So
there you go.
Well, you're not nervous about today, are you?
I'm a slow starter, but here's the problem, Gina. Once I get on a roll, you might not be able to cut me off.
That's okay. That's okay. We like that.
That's good. That's no problem. I mean, here's the thing about this podcast is we want these fun conversations to just sound like it's something we're sitting around doing around a campfire. And you are a great wordsmith, great conversationalist, and we just are happy to have you on the podcast. And we know that we know you're a storyteller, and this podcast is about telling amazing stories. So we're gonna have some fun, and hope you do.
Okay, thank you, man. I'll try to behave. Do good for you.
All right. Well,
you don't have to behave.
We've been to a couple rallies and events that you've been at, and we've hung out. But it's been several years since we've visited because Gina and I spent a lot of time in other parts of the country, and I know that you're very busy in lots of different avenues, lots of different things, Airstream community as well as others, and you're passionate Airstream owner and all that good stuff. But we always like to ask, like, what was your entry point? Like, how did you start out with being an Airstream owner? Like, where were you in life? What did you have on your mind that caused you to start paying attention to them? And then how did you get one, and how'd you get started?
Now, John, he says we like to start with a question. And how many questions did you count right there? Like 6, 7?
But I think half a dozen questions.
Yes,
it was all one. It was just blended in.
I got a good long answer for you. It goes back about 4 years now.
Okay.
So, now, the real backstory to my little Airstream saga is poor needing to go take my two young boys to the beach, to the mountains, anywhere we wanted to go on vacation. But, we really didn't have the coins to buy a motel room. We had tents. We had an old 1966 Chevrolet pickup truck, and I had a little bit of a rigged up aluminum shell on the back, and I put a couple of little cots and stuff. So we started like that, which is where a lot of people start. And then we got us a pop-up camper, and I thought, man, this is awesome. We're up off the ground. Don't have a bathroom, but we're up off the ground. And then, we got a sure enough towable trailer. It was small. It was a little 1978 Scotty, 18 foot. It was a double axle thing. But anyways, so I go way back in the RV camping thing. But from the very first time as a kid, and probably even before those early camping days, you'd see an Airstream go down the road, and I'd say, kind of, Mosey, one of these days I'm going to have me one of those things. And so I've been enamored with them all my life. And we've had 4 or 5 different SOBs. Everybody knows what that is. That's some other brand. And, very few people that I know get to make an Airstream their very first RV. So we finally, it's only been 15 years ago that I've got the Airstream. We finally had an opportunity to start looking for one and, reach a lifelong goal of owning an Airstream. And I was looking for a 34-footer. I knew that was the longest one that Airstream made, and I guess it's a man thing. But I said, if I'm going to get me one, I'm going to get the longest one they make. And
every man likes things that are long, right, John? You're right. That is a man thing.
That's exactly right. So and you can't. Some people buy a short one and then they want to get a longer one. So I just said, well, scrap. I'll just skip all that and I'll get the long one. So I had also done a little research and figured out that in the used Airstream market, the 34 footers, which is what we have, that's their triple axle. It's the only ones they ever made were triples. But in the used Airstream market, the 34s bring the least amount of money.
Oh,
I guess people don't want to tow them around. They get intimidated. They go down the road like they're on a rail. But anyways, so if you have a small budget, which is what we did and still do, and so the 34 fit my budget, and the one we wanted was out of all places. I live here in South Carolina. Lived here all my life. I'm a diehard South Carolinian, and but the one that we found was all the way out in Iowa. So
oh wow,
we went out, got it, and brought it back. So that's how I actually got it. I mean, it's been a lifelong goal. I really think that most people that are out there RVing, no matter what they're in, what brand, they still become fairly enamored with that Airstream, that silver bullet. And I had been been bitten by Alumalina a long time ago. So 15 years ago, we had an opportunity to start looking for one, found the one we were looking for, but we found this 1993 34-foot classic out in Iowa, and looked at it online. It's an interesting short story. I talked to the gentleman that had bought it, and he was elderly. I could tell from his voice. I never met him. He had taken this trailer back to the dealer that had sold it new back in 93 because he and his wife had aged out. I think she had recently had passed away maybe, but talked to him on the phone, and of course talked to the dealership, and they said, yeah, this thing is pristine, and rode out there, drove pretty much nonstop going out to get it. And first thing I saw, I mean, I knew this was the one we were looking for. It really was pristine. It still is, considering it's 31 years old.
yeah.
But we pulled probably, I don't know, we pulled it probably close to 200,000 miles.
Wow.
So it's here a little love marks here and there, but it still looks pretty good. But anyway, that's how I got to come to the Airstream, and my very first entry into the Airstream club type thing I stumbled upon it. I didn't know a darn thing about it. I didn't know what those big red numbers were.
Had the guy that owned yours before, was he part of the club?
Never been in the club, apparently, because my trailer had never had numbers on it.
Yeah.
And you don't see that very often in an older trailer.
That's why I asked it exactly, because I thought maybe, you got it and it had old numbers or the imprint of old numbers or something before you got it.
It sure did. And that was, so I was real hesitant about putting those red numbers. But I mean, as soon as I found out that there was an Airstream club, which has now been 15 years ago, I immediately joined it. And they gave me a number, and I still did not put them on my trailer because that trailer had never had them. And so I don't know. I was just scared to stick them on there. I don't know what it was. I made a little plexiglass plate thing to hang on there. I put the numbers on there, and then it must have been about 2018. Yeah, well, yeah, that's jumping ahead a little bit. But anyway, when I got involved with Region 3, I became eligible for a 3-digit number, which if you're in the Airstream club, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But even if you're not in the club, it doesn't matter. I was eligible and received a 3-digit number because you got to have at least minimum of 4 digits and above. But anyway, when I got my 3-digit, it seemed my trailer never had them on there. I put them on there, and I've been proudly displaying them ever since. I've had decades and decades of dreaming about owning an Airstream, and that's, I'd been in them one or two here and there, stop at a RV lot, and there's one there. And if you've never been in one, when you first sit down on that couch, and it's like sitting in a tube, and it just kind of wraps around you. And so, anyway, I've been
since you'd had other types of RVs before, and then you had aspirations to get an Airstream, you finally get one, and you go sit down inside of it. I mean, it's an obvious different feel, right? It feels different inside.
Oh, there's nothing else out there like it. Nothing on the planet that I know of. But I'm real familiar with the other brands. I've had several of them, and I have 2 sons. And in fact, one of them just bought a 34 himself recently, so we're glad. But I've had SOBs in my family, and I go in them, and I about gag at the fit and the finish on. So, but I try to be nice to boys, because I love them to death. And so, but yeah, that the fit and the finish of an Airstream is like no other. And but anyway, we like it. We don't like it. We love it. I tell people I like to be buried in that 34, but I want my boys to have it. So I can't.
That'd be
I guess they could cremate you and just carry your ashes around.
That'd be a big grave site. You'd have to buy a bunch of spots in the cemetery for that 34.
So, John, I have a question. Because of the age of your Airstream, have you done any kind of improvements, either inside or out to it?
Or customizations?
Yeah, customizations.
Well, I get that question asked a lot because when people find out that I'm a furniture maker by trade and I've been working in wood for almost 50 years, and that's the first question they asked me. I bet the inside of that thing is, all fixed up, tricked out. I said, no, sir. You know what? One of the things we like about our trailer is it's old for sure, but it feels like home to us. It's got the vinyl clad interior, the oak cabinets. I've got original hardwood floors in the galley, and it feels like home to us. So I haven't done a thing. We replaced a little bit of carpet up in the very front of it, and those of you that have older trailers know what I'm talking about. There was a lot of them had carpet from one end to the other, and then they set all the cabinets on top of it. But ours only had it up in the front end and the back end. So that's all I've done now, because we like it is. If you saw where we live in our little tiny house, it's our little tiny trailer. Well, it ain't tiny. compared to some, but our house and our trailer look a lot alike. And so we like the wood, we like the original stuff. And I ain't changed anything on it.
Yeah.
Inside or I try to keep it cleaned up and all that.
What that tells me is that the durability of the
For
Airstream interior. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's one of the things is it's that there's more Airstreams on the road, you know, than any other brand because they last longer and
Right.
whether they've been redone on the inside or not, you know, you just have so much more longevity because the quality's so much better. And then, you know, there is something to be said too. Like I mean, I hear where you're coming from. It's like you've got one that's the age that it is, but that's one of the things that you like about it is the style and the design and the age when you got it, and it's such a unique looking camper that you don't want to mess that up if you don't have to.
Nothing like it on the planet. So again, a little tiny bit of a backstory about me. So I grew up here with my parents and my grandparents in an antique business here, antique furniture, and so I've lived all my life in this 18th and 19th, and I've been kicking and screaming into the 20th and 21st century. So old stuff has been in my blood since I was, you know, just a chap. And so I like vintage stuff. I like original equipment. I like OEM. And
Yep.
so that's why I change a thing in our trailer. And some people will tell you that, and I don't want to create some kind of controversy because I'm not a controversial person, but some people will tell you that 1993 was the pinnacle year for Airstream because beginning in 94, Airstream was transitioning into the wide body trailers.
Oh yeah.
So my trailer feet wide, and the wide bodies are now 8.5. That required a 3-piece rib versus in mine is a 1-piece. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're all good. They're all good. We love our narrow bodied. We like to look. I like the livability, that extra 6 inches inside there, but I do not like the way the wide body trailers look from the outside. You know,
Yeah.
you can't both. So, but anyway.
So the yeah, I don't know the exact rule on this, but what is yours old enough to be eligible to be part of the vintage Airstream club or like that?
I think that is 25 years. So I'm whatever. I can't even do the math today, but I'm 6 years past that.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
but you know what though? It's what's the cool thing about an Airstream? You can pull into a gas station or a parking lot or a rest area, and people say, "Man, they don't make those anymore, do they?" Well, you shouldn't have said that because you know, an hour later, I'm telling them all about. Yeah, they've been making them since 1931, and
Yep.
or they can't tell whether mine's 31 years old now. It's not nearly as old as a lot of them, but it's a lot older than a lot of them too. But you can't tell whether it's new or old because the shape of them has remained pretty much unchanged, you know, since wherever I mean years that is. But I love to tell the story of the Airstreams to people that, you know, that have never heard it.
Well, that we've got a similar experience to that, or we've had it a lot, but you know, we bought ours new in 2017, and took that first summer trip in it. You know, brand new Airstreamers, crossing the country that first summer, and we're hitting the gas stations and the parking lots and stuff, and people are commenting to us about how nice of a Airstream it is, and they're always asking us, and in our mind, you know, it's brand new, it's less than a couple months old, and here we are traveling in it all the way across the country, and people are saying, man, that's a nice Airstream, how old is it, what year is it? And because they think it's like 20 years old or something, and we're like, it's new, we just got it. But
we actually stopped at a service station and filled up with gas, and then we pulled over to the side to have lunch. It's still in their parking lot, but off on the side. And we're sitting in there having lunch, and we hear all this commotion outside, and we get up and we look out our window, and there is a tour bus that has stopped to let people go to the bathroom. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
have lined up taking pictures of each other in front of our Airstream.
Yeah, it was.
They had a whole line of them, and they would rotate. One person was taking pictures of everybody,
Right.
getting their picture
And
made.
they were tour bus of foreign visitors, and so they were all out doing the pictures and just in awe of this Airstream.
Probably had no clue we were sitting in there having lunch.
No, it was funny.
No, you can't. It's hard to see into an Airstream,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your backgrounds whatsoever. But almost everybody on the planet recognizes that shape and that trailer, and they may call it a Scream Air or something like that, but they do associate that iconic shape and that silver shiny with something special. It is a special trailer,
It is.
and it's a special club. And I'm not going to honk the horn for the Airstream Club, but I've been a member of it from as soon as I could get there. But it does have its own special club, and there's only one rule, really and truly, in the Airstream Club is you got to have an Airstream to be in it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty unique.
I think it's very unique, but now I'm going to change the subject here just a little bit because I'm very interested in like your most favorite or unique trip that you've been on in your Airstream.
200,000 miles is a lot of miles.
That's a lot.
So what's?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Susan and I have been real fortunate. Being self-employed, if you can figure out how to make the money part of it work, you can get the time off. And so we have managed to crisscross the United States multiple times, and we enjoy the company of friends, but really and truly our most special times are when it's just she and I, and we go across. One of the most unique things I think I remember, and like I say, there's been many of them, but we crossed Nevada one time on I believe it's Highway 50. I can't remember now, but it's called the loneliest road in America. And if you look at Nevada and look at the map, and there's not a lot of roads in Nevada, but it goes all the way across there. And I'm telling you, you just about need a satellite phone if you go out there, because there ain't no service. And so if you have a breakdown, a truck, your truck breaks down, I don't know. I was a little scared about it. It took us I don't remember now, a day or so to get across there, but that's one of my most memorable ones because of the remoteness of that out there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit an adventure to know that there ain't going to be a cell phone service. There's not a gas station down the street. There's not going to be Joe's record shop right there either. So
and
here's hope nothing breaks. So anyway, that was a good one. But yeah, we've been down into the Florida Keys, up to Maine, from South Carolina to California. We went up one time. We've actually been at least twice up the West Coast. And so I'm an East Coast boy. I live 200 miles from the Atlantic Ocean here in South Carolina. So I'm, never going to get me away from here. But we had a couple of memorable trips just monkeying around, going up I guess both times. Well, once was north, one's south, but traveling that eastern coast because it's so different. But yeah, it's all good. We've been a lot of places. We've been to most of the national parks, the bigger ones anyway, and we've had a good time. I hope it's going to continue for a little bit longer. Like I say, I'm 70 now, and I like age ain't nothing but a number, but
Yep.
You got plenty of years.
I hope so. I'm gonna go down kicking and screaming. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you can put another 200,000 miles on that rig.
Yeah.
I hope so. We slowed down a little bit, but that's not because really I want to. It's just so next summer in August, if we make it to August, Susan and I, that's of course my wife's, we'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary. So,
oh wow, there you go.
Congratulations.
Oh yeah, big deal. We just had number 49 back in August. I said, honey, we'll try real hard for number 50 because that's a milestone, and I ain't making no promises for 51. But anyway, right now we might take off on some kind of epic trip back across country. It's been a few years since we rambled out in the Southwest and in the Pacific Northwest, all those places. We've enjoyed them all. We really don't have any. Like,
that's the thing that we're East Coasters too originally, and when we started getting out west,
wide open spaces.
Yeah, just getting into some of that different landscape, and especially the first time we spent a winter time in the desert Southwest. Compared to the winters in the Carolinas, which sometimes they can be mild, sometimes they can be rough, but it's still wintertime. But you get out into southern Arizona, southern Nevada, something like that, and you can have, daytimes that are in the 60s and bright and sunny and blue skies, and night times in the maybe 40s or whatever. But every day the weather is almost the same. You don't have rain, you don't have winter weather, you might have a little bit of wind, but anyway, it just between that and for winter times, and then higher elevation, mountain kind of camping, or just getting into some areas that are just absolutely stunning landscapes in the summer. That's what caused Gina and I to start spending so much time, as full-time travelers out west, and we just fell in love with it. But there's a big difference between here and out there, and we also got so used to being able to camp off the grid and boondock and dry camp and stuff that when you get back into this area of the country, you always got to be in campgrounds for the most part. So we just we love it out there.
Yeah, we do too. We had a memorable trip to I don't know where we were going, maybe nowhere in particular, but we were out. It was summertime, but we were out in Colorado. And I don't even remember where we were, but we got up in the mountains, and it was so damn cold. I didn't have enough. Neither one of us had enough of winter type clothes to enjoy being outside. We we went short pants and t-shirts and stuff, and it got down there. So, but it was all good. But I would like to have been able to sit out there and bark at the moon a little bit longer, but had to come in. But we've had some good times.
Yeah, we had the same thing happen to us that first year, and we shared it on a previous episode on our podcast. But that first summer, and we were packing the trailer to head west, and Gina started packing some warm weather clothes, and we were leaving in June, and we're going to be gone all summer. And I was telling Gina, I said, it's summertime. What are you packing these clothes for? And she said, oh, we're probably going to need it. And I was like, there's no way we're going to need it. And then we get out into Wyoming and Jackson Hole area, and in August, the nighttime lows were in the mid 30s. And in August, and
you were glad you had those clothes, weren't you?
Absolutely.
See, you don't argue with me. I know what I'm talking about.
That's right. You can't mess with a woman.
That's right. Thank you, John. Say that a little louder for him.
So, John, we want to ask you a question and start a conversation about something that is on all of our minds, obviously, but you are world famous for sure, and definitely famous in the southeastern U.S., but most likely all over the country. But for putting on an amazing Airstream event called Alumalina, and it's been going on a lot of years now, and you've been doing it since the beginning, and we want to chat with you about that because we all know what has gone on the past week, and we just want to talk openly about it and let you share your thoughts and feelings and just carry on. So the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with y'all about it. I got to say this, though. I might be famous, but only right here in my little neighborhood. I don't know about that other part, but it sure sounded good. But we were all looking forward to putting on the 18th edition of Alumalina this year. It was coming up in just a few weeks. And I had, as I tell people, it's a million little things. And I had almost all the million pieces lined up as down to the very end of getting it all pulled together. And the one person I probably should have invited and asked not to come was Mother Nature, and she showed up. and reared up, as y'all know, came up from Florida, ripped all the way up through here and up through western North Carolina and all up the road. So the bottom line on all that is our little rally park up there in Marion, where we've been holding Alumalina the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 times. He got washed away. And so the little quick short backstory is on up there in 6 or 8 or 10 or so rallies I've held up there. I've had at least 20 different rally campground managers up there. It's been somewhat of a revolving door, which has been a little bit of a, kind of tough, but I finally think they got the right little gal in there. And she was dedicated to that job. And so when she called me Saturday to tell me what was going on, I could just feel her tears, and her voice was trembling, and she was calling me to tell me that the entire rally park up there, 400 plus sites, was washed completely away. The rushing waters that the Catawba River runs right along the back edge of that facility. And for those of you that have been there before, you know what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful river. I wouldn't call it a humongous thing. You could walk across it and it might be knee deep in most places, maybe a pool here and there, but because it is part of a very substantial water system that runs all the way down through the Carolinas, or in a series of dams and lakes, it had flooded terribly and ripped out that entire area, including the rally part, which she said all the pedestals, the sewer connections, water lines were just mangled up like a pile of cooked spaghetti noodles and all over the place. And I've seen a few pictures. It's bad. It's real bad. So it ripped that place to pieces. And she was calling Saturday to tell me that obviously they couldn't have a rally. And so we were both, there was a lot of silence on the phone. I didn't know what to say to her, and I don't think she really knew what to say to me. And that venue is like no other. I've never been to another place better than that anywhere.
We agree. And yep. It's an awesome spot.
It's just incredibly good. And so number 18 is not going to get to happen. Now, the good news is that she called me again just about an hour ago, because I've been trying to reach out to her for a couple of days. I wanted to know, of course, about her. I wanted to know about her co-workers. I wanted to know about the whole park. And she said, well, the water didn't really get up into their buildings there. That's a good thing. I probably got a little bit in there, but there's no power there, and there's not going to be any power there for a long time. So in the course of the conversation, she assured me she's fine. She has an RV of her own. She's living in it down in Concord, because the Concord location has a small campground with it. It wouldn't be big enough for Alumalina, unfortunately. But anyway, she told me once she told me she was okay and gave me a little bit of okays from the other people that I know there, then I could turn the conversation a little bit more to the future of that place and Alumalina. And she said she'd already been told that they were going to rebuild the park.
That's good.
Which I really didn't think I did not think they would, because of all the properties and dealerships, or whatever you want to call them, that Camping World owns. They bought out that from a family dealership, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, maybe 10 at the most. But that's the only campground that Camping World owned. And I hope they're not listening to this, because it's just brutally honest. I don't think they really had a handle on how to handle a campground. And
I think, John, that the high executives of Camping World have already discovered our podcast, and they are definitely listening. So it's okay. I mean, it'll be fine.
Be honest, John. Just be honest.
Well, I hope they are listening, because this is what I want them to know, and this is what I've told their local general manager, Alan Good, who has been an absolutely fabulous guy to work with there. I don't want anything knocking on Alan, because he's an incredibly nice guy. But what they have there in that rally park is so unique. I've been to a lot of places. I've never been to a place nicer than that, more unique than that, more well, even better maintained. It is
Yeah.
so unique that I sure do hope that they rebuild that.
Yeah. And
I would say,
I just like to say, well, interrupt you there for just one second and say that, you know, for people that may not be fully familiar with it, that might be listening, it just give respect where it's due. You know, that facility used
yeah,
to be called Tom Johnson Camping Center,
that's correct.
and it was a premier, beautiful facility. This is long before Camping World bought it. So I'd say give credit to Tom Johnson for building such a unique place, for one, and then, you know, secondly, the we've been up there before for other type of events, you know, as well as you have the region rallies been up there and other events and stuff, and, you know, been through a lot of severe thunderstorms and rain, and
Yep, yep,
that river has gone up really quick, and even gotten to the point where it's spilled over its banks just a little bit, and it says, and you're looking at it like, oh man, the water's coming up. But then all you've
yep.
got to do is not pay attention to it for 15, 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it's gone back down, and no threat. And, you know, given the way that storm was, obviously, you knew it was going to be worse than just the river rising a bit and then dropping back down quick. But, you know, when I was looking at it and thinking, you know, fingers crossed, it was maybe one of those deals where the river kept flowing right through that area, and it wasn't going to be as bad and catastrophic as it turned out to be, obviously.
Well, you know, it's the same way. I've been up there many times. I've been going up there long before the days of Alumalina, and I've seen piles of sand up there, you know, basically up in the campground. It looks like there's going to be a sand mine or something, but it's where the river obviously flowed up. And within a matter of days, that sand would be spread out and gone. I mean, they kept that place up so once.
Yeah.
So when all this, when this Helene thing came along, I thought the same thing. The river will get up, it'll flow over there a little bit, and everything's going to be fine. And so that Saturday, when my phone rang, I thought, holy crap, this can't be good. She wouldn't be calling me. She called me late in the day on a Saturday afternoon when nobody else, you know, working is going to call you. So I said, oh, this can't be good. And that's when she broke the news to me. So I I was so ecstatic today when she told me that she had been told that they were going to build it back. And so any of the folks from Camping World corporate, I hope you're listening, because you got to understand what a unique place you got there.
Yep.
And so hang on to it, do what you can. I told her, Heather, I said, well, they'll have a clean slate there. The only thing I can say they could do to improve it is about 300 of the 400 sites had sewer hookups. Make 400 out of 400, but put sewer everywhere.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I've been.
So let me ask you this. So, you know, obviously, you've worked tirelessly for a good long while preparing for this one, and now it's
Yeah.
gone away, and just all, not to mention all the other catastrophic aspects of what Western North Carolina is going through. But you know, not to put you on the lay you down on the therapist couch or anything, but how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I appreciate you asking. You know, the only reason I don't feel like I've been shot in the gut with an elephant gun is because whole Western North Carolina's got a whole lot more issues going on than I do with the Alumalina. But I do feel gut shot. And that's a little bit on the selfish side, I know, but I can't help it because Alumalina is it's a year round thing. It's never far from my mind, and I like doing it. The thing about Alumalina is it's created a family of people that is, I can't hardly describe it. I got my computer open right now. I'm looking at some of the emails. I'm looking at some of the conversations that are going back and forth. What has helped me truthfully get through it, but it does. It still brings tears to my eyes. I get a little bit choked up thinking about it. But the community of people that have been to Alumalina that were coming this year have been just unbelievable, and it has picked me up tremendously. And that's just the way the Airstream family works. It doesn't have to really even be anything to do with Alumalina, but the Airstream family is like no other on the planet. And so it's been pretty emotional for me. My wife just asked me this morning what the heck's wrong with me. So I said, well, I can't quite get this on my mind because Alumalina has become very important to me. And the guy that prints the books up for me every year, he's a great guy. I wish everybody could meet him. But every year I go over there to pick him up. He's only about 12 miles from here. He says, you really have a good time at these things. I said, dude, I have more good time than anybody there. And if I didn't, I'll just stop this thing because ain't nobody making me do it. You couldn't pay me enough money to do it. I do this as a labor of love. The payoff on this thing is watching the people embracing each other and having a good time. And that's what I'm going to miss this year. And it's going to be, best case scenario, it's going to probably be at least a year before I get to see that going on. I just hope I'm still around a year from now. What I'm going to do, because I got 99% of the work done,
Yeah.
I'm just going to put in a folder or whatever you would want to call it, and I'll break it out next year, and it'll be Alumalina 18 plus 1 or something like that. I don't know what it'll be.
Well, I
I
tell
like
you,
that.
yeah, I tell you, John, I feel like you might as well go ahead and prepare for a significant increase because there's going to be a little bit of built up nostalgia is probably not the right word, but there's people are going to want to come just because they want to respect the fact that it got canceled this year and they want to honor the event and celebrate it.
Absolutely.
Getting back together. So instead of 300 rigs, you might end up maxing that new campground out, however many they have.
Mm-hmm. So, John, we've talked about the community aspect of Alumalina and Airstreamers in general, and I know that the first Alumalina you had 11 rigs and 22 people, and this one, it is. That's fantastic that it's grown from that. And this year you were expecting about 325 rigs, I think, and I don't know how many people that would be.
Yeah, that'd probably be a realistic number. I had 360 plus on my list, so I was expecting 330, 340.
Because not everybody's going to come, even though they say they are. So I understand that.
You usually have a few that have to bail out at the last minute. Yep.
Right. So what is your favorite part or your most memorable part or the part that you love the most about Alumalina?
Oh, Gina, that's a tough one there. I'll tell you, there's no parts of it that I don't like. I think that mealtime, when you get 600-700 people up to that pavilion, and it might be hot dogs, it might be barbecue, it might be fish, but there's so many people there that are so happy to be there. They're having such a great time, not because of me, but because of each other. Everybody's there is there for the same reason, and that's just to celebrate each other. So I think one of my favorite things to do, is walk around that pavilion. And if for those listeners that have never been there, you can't get this is a huge pavilion. It's an open air thing. concrete floor. But anyways, I love to walk around in there and have a little bit of interaction there with the people eating. The other thing that I always enjoy to do is kind of after the official night had ended usually around 7:30 when we kind of like have a few door prizes, whatever, and we kind of sort of say good night from the group things. People meander back to their camps, and it's dark, of course, because with daylight savings times has ended by then. And
Mm-hmm.
so I usually pour me a little bit of, I like a little, if I could have my druthers, there'd be a little bit of single malt scotch. So I pour me a little bit in a cup. And I just like to walk through that campground, and you could hear the laughter before you could even see it.
Right.
And you could see the campfires off in the distance. And so when you walk up in that campfire, there might be 25 people sitting around that thing. And so I get a lot of pleasure out of that part. So it's still just, I guess you'd say, Gina, it's just the interaction that I get
Mm-hmm.
with the people that are there.
I'm hearing that the connection and the community is the most important part.
That area of North Carolina is too beautiful to ignore, and we sure hope that it gets corrected as
Quickly
fast
as possible.
Yeah, and we
Yes.
hope, and we think positive, and know that everybody up there struggling is got
And it's
everybody's
sad.
thoughts.
It's very sad what has happened, and it's sad that we're not going to be able to get together for Alumalina, but in the grand scheme of things, we've got to give that community and that whole section of Western North Carolina, time to overcome this, and it may take a year, it may take 2 years, but
that's exactly the way we feel. The Alumalina is just basically a social event, and right now they got tragedy up there. So
yes,
tragedy's it's got to take precedence. But I feel like I think Marion will bounce back. I think the whole entire mountain region will bounce back, as will Florida and Georgia, South Carolina. Everybody will bounce back. It's going to take a while, and if they will build that park back, we will be back with Alumalina. Now, if it's a year or even 2 years, I'm determined to bring it back. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been real bummed out about it.
Yeah, and we got a couple other fun subjects to chat with you about, but we just wanted to obviously talk about the obvious and make sure that you could express what you really had on your mind to anybody listening to our podcast, and we hope that that everybody understands where you're coming from. This event, is well known, and you can't even compare the fact that it ain't going to happen to what's going on in the whole region of North Carolina or other areas of the Southeast from the storm. So
what I say about that is that it's hard to celebrate when so many people are in pain. And
that's right.
And the feeling that I have from all of it is a numbness. I feel numb, and I feel helpless, and I wish I could help out more. Yeah.
The other subject I wanted to bring up, which I think is really, really cool, and I hope you're okay with talking about it and sharing this cool story, but and I know this story, but I want you to share it with our listeners. Based on your woodworking and your shop and your history of doing all that kind of stuff, tell everybody about the cool experience you had several years ago making this cool, unique little box for somebody very special.
Well, you know what, Chris, I think a lot of that was right place, right time. But one day, I think I didn't take the call. Jay took a call, and it was from the State Department. Because every story I got to tell has got their backstories, but I'll make it real short.
That's good.
We like backstories.
Well, it's kind of critical, but so we got a call one day from the State Department in Washington, and they said, we want to get these special boxes made for the State Department to give out to visiting prime ministers and dignitaries. Now, how they got our name, we still this day do not know. Only thing we can figure is that through our regular furniture making business, we got a lot of furniture in the Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, all around there. And that's a kind of a company town. So even if you don't work in the government, good chance your neighbor does or a good friend does. So we think our name got dropped, probably maybe at a dinner party, cocktail party, who knows? But the State Department was looking for somebody to build these. They called it a dressing box, and so without seeing it, you would just kind of associate it with the size of a little jewelry box that you might put on your dresser. It's not a huge thing. It's like 8 by 12 by 5 something, but they were looking for somebody to make them and to give out, like I say, to visiting dignitaries. And they had real specific ideas about them. They had to have an eagle inlay on them. There's obviously, our national emblem is the bald eagle. So, and other inlays. And so we made them, I don't know, Jay can tell you more than I can, but half a dozen times. And they would send us a label down here. They did say 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, whatever it is, but they would overnight them back to the White House. And
wow, that's pretty special, John.
That was I don't know how that occurred, but
no, that's special.
It would, yeah, I guess. If you saw our little small shop in our little small town in a relatively small state, but on the bottom of the box, at every one of them, we'd put handmade by John and Jay Leake in York, South Carolina, USA. And so we did those for a couple of years. And then what really was hard for us to believe even to this day, but it was spun off of those boxes. That's why I had to tell you the backstory. We got a call and from them, and it said the Trumps, Mr. and Mrs. Trump, are going to visit the Queen of England and to commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day. This was in 2019, I believe. And Mrs. Trump has commissioned Tiffany and Company to build the Queen a special brooch. And, she always wore one on her jacket every time you ever saw her. So lo and behold, somebody up there must have thought, well, heck, we got this fabulous piece of jewelry got made. We can't put that in a cardboard box, so we got to have a box. So they reached out to us to make a special box to hold that little jewelry. And so they gave us some specifications on the size of it, and and then they said, we're going to send you some wood to make it out of.
Whoa.
And that's what we thought. What in the world's the White House doing with wood?
Yeah.
So they, lo and behold, it comes overnight, a little box full of wood strips. They were about 1/4 of an inch thick and 5 or 6 inches wide, a couple feet long, but they'd already been sawed and planed. It wasn't like it sent us a log or something. But yeah, and they didn't identify the wood, but we know what kind of wood it was because we know wood. But they sent us the the specifications on the size, and the inside of it had to be lined with cushioned velvet, cushioned up, and it had to have this in the lid of this little box. They sent us, they sent us an image of the White House from 1812 before the British burned it. But so it had several little connections back to England. But we made that little box. And what was really crazy about it was, I think they called us on a Friday. They said, "Can y'all do it?" Well, we ain't gonna say no. We're gonna stop everything.
Right.
Obviously. And so they said, we're gonna send you some wood. Well, we got that wood on a Monday because the weekend was going on. And they said, we need this little box back to us on Thursday because the Trumps are landing in England on that Monday.
Wow.
So God almighty. That you talk about, you would say, well, you can make a box in a day. but you can't make that kind of a box in a day. So we went into scramble mode, and we got the wood, and Jay did the work. My son Jay is 40. He's 43 or 44 now. My other son Philip is 43 or 2. They're just a year apart. I can't talk about one good son and not talk about the other because they're both outstanding. But so we went into the scramble mode and got this little box made. Jay did it, dovetailed up the corners. We had to get little tiny hinges and locate some black velvet, pat it up, and get a finish on it. And of course, like I say, they send us a label, and it's an overnight label. Darn thing went to UPS, and so um, I hope nobody out there works for FedEx, because and so we put the little box in a box and padded it full of stuffings and all. And when the guy came to pick it up, I said, "Dude, you can't throw this in the back of that truck, and it damn sure not get under the truck, because some of the boxes we get looks like they've been under the truck, not in the truck." But anyway, it got there as far as we know, because we never heard anything back. But that was our little claim to fame. So that little box, it was built in our little shop, in our little town, in our little county in South Carolina, is still to this day, even though the Queen has passed away. I'm sure it's over there in her castle in inventory somewhere with that beautiful. We never saw the brooch. They don't even have an idea what it looked like. They just told us what size the box needed. So that right now, our claim to fame. And the word got out about us making it, and which was fun because we had a good time talking about it. The news, the TV stations came to see us, the radio people, and even a lot of my Airstream friends wanted to know about it. And but yeah, that was back in 2019, and
Yeah.
again, still don't know exactly how that job came to us, but it's a real pretty box. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. We were so excited, I guess you'd say, but we was also stressed about this timeline to get this thing off. We had a cardboard box sitting there ready to put that little wooden box down in it because it had to go. And I said, "Dadgum, Jay, we better take a picture of this thing. We might never see it again." And so, as a last second thing, we whipped out the camera, took a couple of pictures, and that's it. Or we wouldn't even have that to look at. But,
oh my gosh!
I thought you were going to say you didn't take a picture.
Yeah, I was worried about that one.
It's a matter of opinion who's running the White House, who's running the country. We won't get into the political side of it, but there's a fair amount of respect goes with the office, and it is a presidential gift to a queen, of the Queen of England. So it was a big deal for us, and we got worked up over it and made a real good job over it. And we kept thinking maybe about 3 of them big old blacked out Chevrolet Suburbans would come rolling in here, pick that thing up, but they did. They just said,
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Like
yeah, just send it through UPS. It's all right.
Yeah. Well, they should. They should have.
UPS. That's what I told that driver. I said, "Dude, man, this thing going to the White House. You cannot mess this up."
Say, be careful.
Well,
yeah.
It was funny. It was pretty wild.
That's awesome. Great story.
That is a wonderful story. And you see, Chris, I told you this was going to be stimulating.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
See?
Yes, you're exactly right. Yeah, I mean, that's a one-of-a-kind story.
It is.
For sure.
Well, it probably is because of who was getting it and where the wood was sourced from. Again, what in the world is the White House doing with some little pieces of wood?
You know, our listener out there is going to be saying, "What kind of wood? What kind of wood?
Yeah.
Tell me, what kind of wood?" So is that something you can share, or do you have to keep that a secret?
Yeah, I don't think they were trying to hide anything but they just didn't identify because they probably didn't know what kind of wood.
Maybe.
We think it was basswood. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple of little things too if you got another minute or two. The basswood's we know our wood, and basswood is real soft, and it's what most of the time basswood is used for is carving. Duck carvers, bird carvers use it, basswood, because it's soft. It has very little to no grain to it, and so we knew it was basswood. But listen to this is interesting. The formal name for basswood is linden tree. I believe it's Linden, the linden. Well, guess where the linden tree originated?
Where?
England.
England.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's why.
number one. Number two is the Queen's castle, her personal castle. I think it's Windsor, I'm not sure. But her castle is full of carvings from basswood from the linden tree. So it's the second connection. The third was the image that they asked us to have. We had to get it lasered into the lid of this little box. But the image they sent us was the image of the White House from 1812 before the British burned it. So somebody on Mrs. Trump's staff did a really good job of connecting up that box with the linden tree in England and all those things. And so, like I say, all politics aside, that's a pretty big deal.
Yep.
And Mrs. Trump or somebody on her staff, and we were told her staff was very, very small compared to most first ladies, but somebody did a little research and figured out, well, we got a linden tree here. And, but I don't know if they went out there and sawed a limb off of it. I don't know about that part. They didn't tell us. But I still, to this day, can't help but wonder what in the world the White House would do with some wood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's those other aspects of. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, all I'm gonna say is the government knows what's best for us, right?
Yeah.
It was an exciting time in our little small shop, and if you can see our shop, this is not a huge, metropolitan complex with full of robots and stuff. It's just we're very well equipped, but it's small, about 1,200 square feet. It doesn't even have any windows in it, so you can't really see out of it.
I think the fact that it was handmade from an American-owned, American-located small town shop gives it some more character than if Tiffany's had it mass-produced and just put a brooch in it.
We know where the thing was made. We know who made it. We're okay with that.
Think about it like 100 years from now, maybe more than that, maybe 200 years from now or something, that somebody's going to come across that box and it's going to become an heirloom. I mean, it's going to be like in a museum somewhere.
Could be.
Well, I got to think it is right now, even though the Queen has passed, and what a lady she was. But it still is being cataloged, and it's in her estate. It's probably on a shelf, the same place it was put maybe when she got it. Who knows? But they're not going to out. They're not going to toss anything out.
Wow.
So, I think, too, that somewhere along the line, maybe some of her great grands or something are sifting through some of that stuff, and here's the little box are real pretty.
Yeah,
we use the very best parts of the boards to pick out best grain patterns. It had a little spalting in it. If you're not a woodworker, you don't know what spalting is, but it adds some zing to the wood. So we knew what we were doing.
That's awesome. That's great.
And so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe in 50 years from now, John's great grandchildren are going to see that up for auction and they're going to buy it for like $80 million or something. Don't you think that sounds pretty good?
Very good.
I hadn't thought about that. I got I got 4 grands, and they're one would get. I'm a lucky man. This is getting a little bit off on the personal side, but Susan and I live right here where we grew up, and all of her family, 2 brothers and a sister, all of my family, 2 sisters and a brother, and my 2 sons, we all live within about 12 miles of each other. Susan and I luckily sit about right in the middle of it. So I can go 6 miles there and see this group, 6 miles there and see that group. So our family is real important to us, and we got a real good one. It's not real big on either side, hers nor mine, but we real good, and we feel real fortunate, real blessed to be living in our hometown. Susan and I were maybe you knew it, but Susan and I were high school sweethearts. We've been together 50 plus years, but
Yeah.
we, we've been in our little town doing my little thing in my little town and got all of our family around us. And we see our grandchildren and kids, on a daily basis if we want to. And so we're pretty rooted in right here. And I got a second family going with the Airstream community. And I tell people all the time, I get a lot of emails and phone calls from people about Alumalina and various Airstream stuff. Get a lot of brand spanking new Airstream, and that's what they'll tell me. They say we're so new. We've had this thing 2 months. This is the first rally we've ever been to. Whatever. I said, well, what you're going to find out is the family that comes with that trailer is like nothing else on this planet. And you're going to love the family fellowship and love that comes with that trailer. That is, you're not going to find it. Might be some kind of real special SOB out there, but that Airstream family is like no other. So if you sent me a note tonight and said, I'm coming to Alumalina, it's my first time I'm ever coming, my first rally I've ever been to, the first thing I tell them about it before we even talk about the rally is I talk about that family that's going to be there, and you're going to meet 300 or plus or 600 of your new best friends, and you'll have friendships that'll last you a lifetime. And you might not see some of these people but once a year, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, but you'll be looking forward to seeing these folks again because there's been a time where you haven't seen them. Or maybe I tell them about Alumalina. One of my little opening speeches that I give up there is, if you're new to this thing, new to Airstreams, new to rallies, new to RVs, but if you come to Alumalina, you're going to see a lot of hugging. You're going to see a lot of back hugging. You'll see a lot of handshakes. And that's because we're all family and we've known each other from rallying all over the country. You may go to a rally, in upstate New York, but you may be there with somebody you went to a rally with in South Georgia. So that's what this becomes, is an extended family. And but there's always, if you get too much family, all you got to do is, your house is right there. Go in and shut the door. It ain't like you're stuck.
Yeah, well, that's well said, John. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it's special to hear you tell some of these personal family stories, and especially expand a little bit about some of your amazing opportunities with your woodworking career. And but just the fact that you're on this podcast is because you're an Airstreamer like we are, and we knew that you were a very good fun guy to talk with and tell stories, and what you just shared about the experiences you've had as having a lifelong goal to own an Airstream, all of the amazing events you've done and held for other folks, and then realizing that you've got a family of friends that are part of being an Airstream owner, and they all come along with it. That's just some of the experiences that we like to share through this podcast, and you did really, really good doing that, and we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us. We've been talking for an hour and 18 minutes.
Wow, have we really?
Yeah.
Here's what you can do, Chris and Gina. You got to have an edit button on that. You probably work that down to about 30 minutes. So.
No.
I enjoyed my time with you. I don't like I say, I don't like to talk about me because there's plenty of other good stuff to talk about. But I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about some Airstream love and how to share it.
Yep.
Rallies are one way to do that. Alumalina, I like to think, is a great way to do it. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I hope you can make something out of nothing here.
This is going to be fabulous. And John, we appreciate you coming on and actually opening up and letting us hear more about your personal stories and how your family is rooted there in South Carolina, because You know,
Yeah.
when you see people at rallies and out, you don't always get their history or down deep and get to know that family dynamic or just their life dynamic. And so this was an opportunity to share that and let people get to know you on a deeper level, I think.
Well, thank you, dear. I got two great sons, they fabulous boys. And one of them works with me every day, and that's what he listens to all day long. He wears ear muffs, and I do too a lot. But he's got podcasts going. I don't know what pod. He's a big NASCAR guy, likes that kind of stuff. But so I hope your podcast goes well. I did not wasn't but very short while back. I didn't even know what a podcast was. And I would hear Jay, my son. He'd have the little speaker thing on. We'd be maybe in our little finishing room, which is kind of quiet. We might be hand sanding and stuff, and he'd have that stuff going. It's usually NASCAR, and I said, "Dadgum, Jay, these guys sound like they sitting around somebody's garage, and none of them are professional talkers." He said, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is." So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
guess
And
that was my introduction to it.
we're not either. We're going through this learning curve, but we felt passionate about putting this podcast together, and having you on as one of our first half dozen or so guests was important to us because we knew that once we had you on as a guest, our podcast was just going to go through the roof. We're just it's gonna blow up. It is gonna.
You know what's gonna happen, don't you?
What?
He's gonna walk into the wood shop one day, and his son's gonna be listening to his dad talk on
That's
the
right.
podcast.
Yeah.
He's gonna say, "Dad, I did not know."
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
You know what? That's the first thing when I told Jay, I guess it was yesterday. I said, "Jay, I got to talk with these folks at 5 o'clock today." He said, "Find out when it's coming on." So
Yeah.
I figured, but yeah, that's exactly what he said, Gina. He said, "I want to hear it."
Absolutely.
And so
That's good.
kind of I never have liked to hear myself talk. I don't like blowing my own horn. I'm just not built that way. But I like to think that I maybe have had a positive influence on not just the Airstream community, but also through my woodworking endeavors. I've done a lot of seminars over the years. I've got almost 50 years of woodworking going on. And so, yeah, I just want to be a positive force in the world. That's all.
I think you are.
That just want to be, I want to be on the plus side. That's all.
So, John, I think you can change the wording of that just a little bit from just want to be that I'm proud to be.
Yeah.
Because you are a positive influence.
John, we want to thank you so much for spending time with us and telling us all these amazing stories, and then obviously sharing your thoughts and feelings about what went on in Western North Carolina. But just having you on the podcast was awesome, and we can't thank you enough.
I have to say, John, I think that you have got stories tucked up under your sleeve, under your shirt, in your back pocket. And we really thoroughly enjoy talking to you and having you on the podcast. We loved hearing the story about how you've made the boxes and how famous you are. We love it, love it. And we are sad about Alumalina, but we know it's going to bounce back, and you're going to be right there leading the way. So thanks, John, for coming on. We appreciate you.
Hey, well, listen, I can't thank y'all enough for inviting me onto your podcast and let me share a little bit of my thoughts about Alumalina. I'm grateful to you. And listen, I can't wait to catch up with you guys somewhere down the road. And I'll just see you there. Thank you again.
We'll make sure that happens, John.
See you down the road, John.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This was a long episode, but it was worth it. So many awesome, fun, amazing stories from John, and we can't wait to see everybody on the next episode.
We'll see you down the road, everybody. Have a great day.